Hey, Shalom, Michelle. I want to start off as always by giving all praise to Yahweh, Ba Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba Hashem, Kakwadash. Double honors to the apostles of great millstone and honors to you brothers doing the work of the Most High in truth and in sincerity. Yahweh is the raw name of whom the Lord ignorantly calls God, Jehovah, or Yahweh. His raw name is Yahweh, and the Son's true name is Yahweh Shai. And when we pray Yahweh, Ba Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba meaning in, Ha meaning that, and Sham meaning name. So Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai. This is some good news and great news. This is prices paid by US consumers jumped 7% in December from a year earlier, the highest inflation rate since 1982. It's the latest evidence that rising costs for food, gas, rent, and other necessities are heightening the pressures on US households, right? And obviously, we're just, discussing it in the chat amongst Arkim and everything, how, the true, figures and things like that, you're probably going to be significantly higher, the real world situation on these things, right? Just the other day I was reading something which I don't know whether it was federal, whether it was a state, basically speaking about how they were going to change something called the CPI, a certain definition to do with this CPI, right, which stands for a Consumer Price Index, which, if my memory serves me well, that's basically how they work out what inflation is. The idea being, they'll look at, say, a loaf of bread, and then let's say that loaf of bread is £1, and then the next time they look at it, that loaf of bread is, £2, and inflation would be 100% because it's 100% more effective, right? You can fact check that. Like I said, it's not something this side of economics and all of that. It's not what economics in general is not really my strong point like that. So you can fact check that yourself. Right, but they were just talking about tinkering with things to do around that sphere, right, which basically would then allow them to do to make things seem better than they really are. For instance, unemployment rate. They'll say, oh yeah, but there's only a 3% unemployment rate, but then like if you've not had a job in like X period of time, then you're not counted in unemployment numbers. Okay, so this man likes to lie a lot, but the point here is, things are getting bad, right? And you kind of ask yourself, how bad can they get? And they think, and not us, people in the world, they're thinking, oh, it will get better, whatever, what have you. Us, we know, thanks to the scriptures, thanks to mercy of the Lord, who's opened up our eyes, we know that things are going to get bad. This is Ecclesiastes 12:3. Right, it says, in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look out the windows be darkened. So grinders cease because they are few. There's going to be no jobs, man. Right, because when inflation keeps going, then the cost of doing everything keeps growing. Okay, so inflation, if it hits your petrol prices, then guess what? The price of everything else has gone up because everything has to be transported from A to B, right? So if it's free, if the petrol's free, then guess what? You don't have to pay to transport those goods. In theory, your prices of certain goods should decrease to a degree. However, if it costs £10 to transport goods from A to B, but you're selling those goods for £5, then that doesn't make any sense. Those goods at least have to be sold for £15, right? So, when inflation goes, so does everything else. And when costs go, the quickest way to cut costs is to cut humans, right? That's why, humans are referred to as a resource, right? But they're a big expenditure for a business, right? So you're going to start seeing a lot of people losing their jobs, a lot of jobs disappearing, as in the job itself is no longer there because the business is no longer there because it's become too expensive to operate, right? Especially, for instance, in like post-Brexit England, right? You're going to start seeing situations where, let's say, you have like European companies that are going to be like, you know what, we ain't operating in the UK anymore, and vice versa, right? But you have British companies that will be in Europe that say actually it's too expensive to operate, in this other territory anymore. Okay, so all of these things are things to look forward to. Right, and it says, and those that look out the windows be darkened. It's talking about your forecasters, your financial forecasters, right? Because it's now all of a sudden they're also speaking about inflation, or maybe it's not transitory. Food shortage is food shortage. All of these people, mainstream media ones, right, basically now that they're talking about that, it's highlighting that's potentially something that Esau's now going to start pushing and fostering more and more in these last days. Well, we know he's going to definitely be doing it in the last days, but as in like now, okay, because for the most part, I mean, if you remember the same thing with this pestilence, it was in China in like November 2019, and he didn't really speak about it until March 2020, and he at that point he just shoved it down your throat, and that's all you're gonna see. It's all you're gonna see. That's all you're gonna see. But it was basically in the background for a period of time, okay. And we've known about these shortages and everything, and now you're seeing it be manifest. So continuing on, right, it says, and the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low. So if you thought, there's always talk about, oh, the high street is the high street is dying out. The high street's really going to die real soon, okay? So when the sound of the grinding is low, he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. Okay, and hey, you've been seeing a hell of a lot of celebrities, right? People of renown in this world, to whatever degree, just dropping dead since the end of 2021. So it's gonna be very interesting to see the reason the reasons manifesting, if you catch my drift, because you've had a lot of sports stars over the last period. I remember there was a period of time near back end of last year, you had three soccer players have die within the space of 5 days. Okay, so it's going to be an interesting year, this one. I was a preset that I wanted to get. Also gonna get fresh, yeah, man. Because everything is That's what I wanted to go into. Yeah, everything is gonna get real bad out here. Okay. 12. This is in second. This is 16. Forget exactly where. What does it say? It says. No, that's right there. Okay, so let me grab this. Right, it's Daniel 12:1, and that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. So this is one of the things we needn't worry, because laws will be of the Lord's elect, right? If it be of the Lord's elect, we're gonna be protected. We got Michael that's gonna be, be fighting for us. Okay, so then there shall be a time of trouble, and this time of trouble is starting. All of these stories about um, uh, inflation rising, and once again, this is now becoming mainstream. And what is something that the apostle Tahar has spoken about for many years, and that is, that situation down in Venezuela is continually said that's going to come up here, that's going to come up here, that's going to come up here. It's constantly said that, okay, and things like this, it lets us see how it's gonna, start to play out a little bit more. So continue on, it says, and there shall be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation, even to the same time. So you think about all the different destructions that have happened throughout history, right? What the Lord is about to do right now is going to be so much worse, right? Because you're going to be having all of these events happening at the same time. You're going to be having freak weather events. You're going to be having, and freak weather events cause famines anyway, okay? You're going to be having famines. You're going to be having, insurrection, hatred amongst the people, right? Scriptures talk about how, because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold, right? You read Second Ezra goes into how people invading one another because of the lack of bread. These things are coming. Okay, so it says, and at that time, thy people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book. Okay, because ultimately, once again, this destruction is for the wicked of our people, not for if we, but laws will be of that number. They ain't for us. Okay, so the elect are gonna be taken care of, and they're gonna be delivered. Okay, so now let's read this. Second Ezra 16:21. Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case, and even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. And we're seeing all these different things are growing, right? We've got this little sword, and once again, we're just waiting to see how this all manifests. That it, whatever's in there, how it manifests. Okay, and then you got the famine. That's in progress. Okay, because famines don't just happen per se. I mean, you can make them just happen, right? You can just cut off the food supply to a city. Okay, but if you think about, say, the famine of Egypt, that took a period of what, 7 years, was it? Well, it was a period because obviously you had people with grain houses, grain stores, whatever, what have you, right? But because of all these different freak weather events, we've actually been in we've had a number of precarious harvests already. Let me say it like that. A harvest where it's like, ooh, it was too wet for too long, and then it was too hot in a time when it should have been cold. Like for instance, at the beginning of 2021, right, it was too cold for too long. So, and I remember you had vineyards that were saying, yo, we weren't really able to sow the grapes in at the right time. Okay, so you basically see that it has knock-on effects. All of these things have knock-on effects. And then obviously you had the pestilence, where basically goods weren't being able to move around. So for all we know, you could have things that were supposed to have been stored that weren't put in storehouses. Then obviously remember, you had a lot of farmers at the beginning saying they had to destroy crops. Okay, then you have the labor shortages, people who physically can't go and pick the fruit, who can't go and tend to the farms, right? Who can't move the goods from one place to another. Okay, all of these things, right, growing upon the earth. Okay, so it says, for many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine. So a lot of people are gonna perish of famine, of lack of food. Okay, it says, and the other that escaped hunger shall the sword destroy. Okay, and would you look at that? Here it is, you've overcome the famine, this, that, and the other, somehow survived. You was a prepper, whatever, what have you. I don't need to get killed by the sword. Why? Because these are the things that the Lord has prepared. The Lord has prepared an evil for this place, right? For thus by violence shall it be taken, roughly paraphrasing. Okay. So as always, Lord's word is edifying. Till the next time we say, Shalom.